I don't think this is a good idea, but I also think this is the best idea. Is this responsible? Absolutely not.
So, a funny story. I went to the flowers exhibition at the Saatchi Gallery earlier this year, and there was this one piece that was my absolute favorite. It was this beautiful floral installation with light and projections. And a couple of months later, I was invited to an Adobe dinner, ended up sitting next to you, and halfway through, I realized that you're the artist behind that piece. I had a total fangirl moment.
That is so funny and so cool and very flattering. Thank you so much. That was really funny. I remember at the dinner when you told me, and like, you're very pregnant and like very like just so dolled up and so fun to chat with. And then that realization was really fun. And like, thank you so much for going to the show. It was like the biggest thing that had happened to me like to date. So it was a very exciting thing to be part of.
It was such a beautiful piece, and it's been so lovely getting to know you since. And I'm so happy to have you here today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
Now, you once told me this story about deciding to hop into an RV with two almost strangers and traveling across the states, which honestly sounds like something out of a film. Can you take me back to that time? Where were you in life and how did it all come about?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I just want to like open this story by letting people know I am sharing my story. I am not trying to say this is a good idea or that this was a smart decision. This was just something I did when I was 21, and it kind of set me on the course of my life, and I'm not sorry about it, but I don't think I would ever advise anyone's children to do this. But it's done, so don't come for me in the comments about how irresponsible I was. I know. I'm still going to share this story anyways, and it's not my fault if I corrupt your child. Anyway, when I graduated from university in 2014, and I was 21 at the time, I think, and super young, like crazy to think about being 21 again. Like, wow, I was such a different person. And I went to college in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I grew up in Colorado. And so when it was my last year of university, and I basically like, one of my good friends in Colorado who I'd known since I was like my preteens or something, Zena, she ended up passing away suddenly, and she was 23 and I was 21 when that happened.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so sorry to hear about your friend.
Yeah, thank you. She was the first person I had ever known to die. And I was so young, and it was just so heartbreaking. And it really like messes with your mind, you know? I just like really had this thing at that age where I was like, shit, some people are robbed of their lives. And it's not fair, you know? And so I was really distraught and like really upset, and went home for her funeral. And when I was there, like basically, if we rewind back, like maybe 4 months previous, I was home in Colorado, and Zena was there as well. And it just so happened she had like lived in Colorado my whole life, but she did this really adventurous, like little bit in LA. And so she was living with just like different people and just kind of like exploring Los Angeles and like exploring her creativity and working on some really cool projects. Like she did some stuff with the Chiodo brothers. Like, do you know Killer Clowns from Outer Space, this film? It's like a very like old 80s like B movie. But Zena, like a little background on her, she was a puppeteer. She built robots. She was an incredible animator. Like she was like one of the most talented, like raw talented people who made things for the joy of it. Like really such a loss for the world. Like I can't even imagine what she would have been up to today had she not died, you know? So basically, I was home at this time and she was home as well. And she was like, I want to try to get onto, I guess there was like this, there were auditions for this reality TV show that was about people who make puppets. Like, I know this used to be a common thing back then where it was like people who do like monster makeup or prosthetics, like some reality TV show in LA where people who are really good at this stuff, like one of those competition skill-based shows. And so she wanted to get onto this puppet making one. And she asked me if I would shoot her audition video for her. And because I just got this camera and I was in film school and I was like, yes, let's do it. And so I went over to her house and we shot all this footage of her talking about the things she made in her room, which is like this bananas place with it's just like walls, like ceiling to floor of things she's made, things she's collected. And it is like packed. Like she was a bit of a pack rat, to be honest with you. But like in her bed was literally a mattress on the floor in the middle of this crazy looking room. And so I was like, let's shoot this video in your room because your room is very you. So I got all this footage of her talking about her work and introducing herself. And so shot all this footage. And then I basically, within a couple of days, edited like a 3-minute version of this video for her to send in for her audition. She ended up getting it. She ended up getting called back for like the next phase. And then her grandmother fell ill and she decided to turn it down. And I remember feeling really sad for her about that. But then like in November, she suddenly died. And I was just like so upset. My sister and my mom, they were like, what if you put on an art show of all of her work? Like that would probably be a really great way for you to celebrate her. And the night before the art show, I basically stayed up from the moment I got home until like 4 a.m. on my little, I still have it, my 2010 MacBook Pro, my little 13-inch screen on the floor like a gremlin in my childhood bedroom, hunched over. Like, I can't believe I managed to sit that long for that many hours and edit using a trackpad. But I edited this video and then I showed it at the art show the next day. And everybody just like stopped to watch this video. Every time it came on, we played it like once every half an hour and we were there for like 2 hours. So we played it like 4 times. And at the end, everybody was just like, it was so nice to see her again. Like, she just like disappeared one day and it was so nice to see her. And so we, I just got a lot of requests to like put this video online so people could see it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I put this video out there on Vimeo because at the time, like, if you were an artist, you put your like films on Vimeo. You didn't put them on YouTube. So it's on Vimeo still to this day. And I ended up putting this little film out on Vimeo and then it went viral. It was so crazy. It also got like 1 million views, which in today's terms isn't like anything. Like now people go like mega viral, like 4 million or bust. You know what I mean? But back then, like it was crazy. It was a lot. And like, it was the most bizarre experience because like, I was just getting all these emails from people who like didn't even know her, just being like, I'm so sorry for your loss, but oh my God, like your friend was so talented and I feel so inspired by her and it's just so sad. And like, it was just this really weird thing where like, on one hand, like you're getting all of this, like this bizarre dopamine hit from this experience, but you're also really sad because your friend is dead. Yeah, it was really crazy. I promise I'm getting back to the RV, everybody. I promise. But this is an important reason as to why yeah.
And it must have been such a surreal mix, you know, the video reaching so many people while you were still deep in loss.
Yeah. And like when you're a kid too, like if you think about being young, like you think you're going to be young forever. You can't even wrap your head around the idea of getting old. Like, and to be 21 and to have gone through that, it was just kind of like smack in the face, mortality. Like, life isn't fair.
Yeah.
Like, I will never understand why horrible things happen to good people. Like, it was just, yeah, it was very, very sobering life experience. But I feel like people who I've spoken to who have experienced a lot of grief, they're just like, oh yeah, it never goes away. It really never goes away. And it's just not fair that she was just so young. But anyway, so I go through that. In college, like, it was really hard because no one really understood what I was going through. And then I feel like because I was spread so thin at university I was in film school, but I studied film, not because I wanted to make movies, but because it encompassed like all art forms. And it just added a timeline. And so it gave me the excuse to where I could take classes in a whole bunch of different departments. So I didn't like have a specific group of friends that I always hung out with until after this happened. I had a few different pinches of people come up to me and be like, hey, are you okay? And then my last like remaining year of college was so fun. I ended up like having this really great group of girlfriends, and we got together all the time and we hung out all the time in between classes. If somebody had a moment free, everybody was just like, who's around? And people would connect. It was so great. And then it became like this very empowering group of women. And I basically was just going through this existential crisis. And I had kind of found like just this newfound like energy for life in a way that like I was just making sense of the world in a new way. And basically, one day I was walking down around the Santa Fe. I went to college in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was walking around the Santa Fe Plaza with my friend Joselle. And we meet these two boys, and they were doing like surveys on happiness in the street in Santa Fe. They were doing this project on happiness. And we were like, who are these two happiness boys? So we just got to chatting with them, and they were traveling around in an RV around the States. They basically, after they graduated, they were just like, we saved us some money. We're going traveling around, and we're just want to find out. I think they want to like be YouTubers or something. You know what I mean? Like, that was kind of the thing that they were trying to do, but they wanted to understand what made people happy. So they were doing this trip. And so I kept in contact with Michael. I got like a short internship in New York City. They ended up coming through. So I met up with them, and they were like, you should come with us. You should totally come with us. And then I was just like, I could stay in New York and struggle. I'm staying on my friend's like couch, or I could just jump in this RV with these two boys. I don't really have any money though, but they were like, if you teach us how to shoot a camera, like we've already budgeted for this, like just cover like some of your food or whatever, contribute something, but just come with us. It'll be really fun. And I was just like, they seem nice enough. I don't think this is a good idea, but I also think this is the best idea. Like, everything in me says that I want to do this. Is this responsible? Absolutely not. I had multiple friends in New York tell me that I shouldn't do this, and I did it anyway. And I'm so happy I did. So basically, I like, against all advice, against what everybody told me, I take this $18 bus ticket to Boston because I have nothing tying me to New York. New York City's always going to be there. I don't really know. I have no direction in my life at this point. I graduated university. I really didn't know how I was going to make money. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, YOLO, you die one day. I'm existential crisis over like Xena dying. You know what I mean? I'm just like, death doesn't give a shit how young you are. Like, I was like, these guys, like this, they're fine. I know that they're fine. Nothing bad's going to happen. So I went and I took the $18 bus ticket, and I like road tripped with them for 6 weeks from Boston out to San Francisco. And we stopped and we stayed with my parents on the way. And it was so fun. Basically, it was teaching Michael a bit about photography. And we just kind of like camped out in places. There was one time where we all really needed a shower and we saw like a sprinkler going somewhere. Like we went over and just like got the sprinkler. Just like it was ridiculous. It was like so, I don't know if I should be sharing that. It was such a great trip. And it was because it was like a bit risky, a bit irresponsible, but like I have gone on so many road trips around the US, like staying in an RV, like just getting out into the world and like getting to know who I am with these two strangers. And also like, who am I when I do something like bold and courageous like that? But yeah, it was also just like, Zena doesn't get to do that. So I have to do this. It's like the people you lose, you carry them with you. And sometimes like you just have to like do things that are a bit risky or playful or like fun. I don't know. Sometimes I kind of just made that decision because she doesn't get to make decisions like that. And I knew it was going to be fine. I knew like on paper, it looks like a dumb, irresponsible decision. And to everyone else, it sounds like a dumb, irresponsible decision, like basically just freeloading off of these two people. But it was like, I owe so many, like, I have gotten such good karma in my life that I'm so excited to like pay that back to people in the future. Like it was really great. So yeah, basically I hopped in an RV with two boys I hardly didn't know because I was grieving and ended up in San Francisco and stayed there. So that was a very long answer to your question, but there was a lot to cover in that.
This is such an incredible story. I just think you should pitch it for a movie script. It would make a perfect film, seriously.
Or maybe like a kooky animation or like a vaudeville, like slapstick kind of thing. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after that RV chapter, you ended up in San Francisco working at a hostel in exchange for a place to stay. That must have been such a change after this incredible journey. What was that period like for you?
So I ended up living and working at a hostel in San Francisco because I took that RV out there and I got there and was basically like, San Francisco is great. There's public transport here. Leave me here. And so then I moved into this hostel. I met people from all around the world. And that was like one of the greatest experiences of my life. I also got some really great life skills living and working there. I loved this. As a rule. The manager said, the number one rule is you have to remember people's names. So when we have new guests, take their name in, like write it down, do whatever you need to remember so that every time they walk into the lobby, you say hello and address them by name. And she's like, she made a joke. She's like, this hostel has no windows. We have to make up for and like good vibes. Like, she didn't say it exactly like that, but that's what she was implying. She's like, it literally was like, it's a hole in the sky in this building. Like there are no amenities. It's really, really clean, but there's no windows. So for people to want to stay there, we had to bring the energy. And I loved that as a rule, like remember people's names. Still to this day, I try really, really, really hard to remember people's names. I don't always do it right, but I'm also not afraid to like ask someone if I've been interacting with them and be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. What was your name again? Because it has just that skill in and of itself has brought me more opportunities and like brought me better connections with people than anything else, like just those soft skills. And then, so that was one of the main rules. And then the other thing was we were allowed to drink on reception and play like games with people and let the emails slip as long as everyone was having fun.
That sounds like a good job.
It was a great job. Like, and it was like, just make sure people are having a good time, be the hostess with the mostess. We will always get to the emails, maybe pick up on prioritize the ones from the night before somebody missed it. But as long as people are having fun, like and that hostel was booked. We never had an empty bed. It was good. So yeah, that's how I ended up at the hostel.
It's only dream jobs for you, apparently.
Yeah, I've gotten really lucky. That's if you're willing to share a tiny room with 4 people and you're pretty easygoing, you'd love it. Yeah.
So around that time, you also started working in floristry and set yourself the goal to earn a living purely through creative work. Why did you set yourself that challenge, and what kind of impact did it have on you?
Yeah. So I basically, when I graduated college, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do in order to make money. And I was starting to feel the pressure and was like, okay, I need to get a job. So I was applying for loads of stuff, trying to get entry-level jobs at like design studios and agencies, and just nothing was happening because, to be honest, I didn't have a strong portfolio at the time. I hadn't made enough work. Like, I hadn't demonstrated my skills enough. Of course, I can see why nobody like gave me the time of day. And so I was like, well, what else can I do? Like, I really set myself that challenge because like, I just really needed to push myself to find a job in the creative industries because I really, really wanted to have a creative career. I didn't want to I just couldn't imagine not being an artist in some capacity or creative in some capacity and like having a job in something I didn't enjoy. So I really wanted to push myself, but because I was not getting any opportunities from any studios or anything, I had to start thinking outside the box. So I was walking around one day just in San Francisco by myself, just thinking like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I was like, well, I think like maybe like something I could do is I could be like a florist. And I don't quite remember what sparked that thought, but I was like, maybe I could be like a florist. That's like creative. That is creative. Maybe I could do that. And so then I ended up going and applying. I saw that this one floral business who basically it's like a bouquet making factory. They needed some florists because they were growing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for it. And I applied for it. And the woman at the time who was kind of the manager and everything, she said she hired me purely off of the fact she just liked me. Like, I just like her. I was just like, yeah, she told me this later, like nearing when I was leaving. I ended up getting the job and it was like really, really hard. It was my first floral job. And it was just like making the same bouquet all day long. It was like, every day, repetition. And then I'm living and working at the hostel, but I'd have to be at the San Francisco flower market at 4:30 in the morning so that we could open the gates at like 4:45. So I was getting up really, really early. So I was staying up late I can't believe you can like do this shit in your 20s, but like I'd stay up late and hang out with travelers from different parts of the world and just drink and hang out and then wake up at insane hours. And then just go work? Like, what? I cannot do that now. But anyway, I was doing that. And I would just work from like, so it was like 4:45 until like 1:30 in the afternoon. And that was your day. And then I'd go home and sleep for a bit and then stay up and work reception at night. And then that was kind of my routine. And it was great. I ended up getting a creative job. I think so. And that floral job, set me on my entire trajectory.
So after that, you moved to New Zealand and then Australia. That's another huge change. How did you end up out there?
Okay. So when I was growing up, I always wanted to travel overseas. And I was living at this hostel there's the classic Americans often don't have their passports. And that's like a judgment the rest of the world puts on us because like our country is so big. And it's so expensive to travel internationally. Like, I was raised believing that international travel is something that only rich people could do. Like, it wasn't something that we did. We went on road trips around the US because flying's expensive, going overseas expensive, and it is. But I also just wanted so badly. I was so curious about the rest of the world. And so when I was living at this hostel, I was just meeting lots of international people. And it just so happened I met loads of people from New Zealand. I basically, while I was living at the hostel, learned about working holiday visas. I had no idea this was a thing. I didn't know that you could get a visa and go live in another country and work there. And I was like, that is something I could do because I need to work. I don't have savings. I don't have disposable income or anyone to support me if I make this decision. What's the worst case? Same with the RV. Something I was thinking about with the RV when I was weighing up going or not. I was just one, YOLO. Two, what's the worst thing that could happen? With the RV, I was my parents can't bail me out if anything super serious happens. The worst thing that could actually happen is a car accident. But if I end up really needing to get home or something, my parents couldn't necessarily afford a flight, but they could buy me a bus ticket. So I know that I'm not going, you never know. But I was the chances of me dying in a car accident could happen, but that's honestly the worst case scenario. And I don't think it's going to happen. And two, if anything happened to where I needed to get home, I have loving parents who will buy me a bus ticket and get my ass home. I think I'm going to be fine. And that was my rationality. YOLO, I've got awesome parents and I don't think I'm going to die in a car accident. And so with New Zealand, I was what's the worst that could happen? That decision was just learning about what was available to me and then thinking about how I could pull it off. And I'm just the type of person, I like to know what the worst possible scenario is. I think it's actually a really good place to go. I really like Kiwis. I've got some good friends who are from there now. I've got some contacts. I should just do it. So I bought a one-way flight. I landed in Auckland and I was staying at a little hostel and I'm just walking around being whoa, I have never been outside of America before. This is crazy. Everybody's driving on the opposite side of the road. And was just super delirious from the flight and just really buzzy. And I see this florist. So I go into the florist shop and I'm hi, just so an American, fresh off the airplane, here we go. And just hi, I am a florist and I'm wondering about the floral industry in New Zealand. I had already arranged a hostel to do work accommodation in Queenstown in the South Island of New Zealand. And I was just I'm headed to Queenstown. I'm going to do work at a hostel there, but I was curious about what the floral industry is in New Zealand and if you have any advice for me if I wanted to get a job. And this woman, I wish I knew this woman's name because she literally set me up for the summer. She's my sister, she runs a wedding company out in Queenstown. She's it is the destination wedding place in New Zealand. Lots of people go to get married there and spend lots of money to get married there. She's here's her number, text her, whatever, let her know that whatever this woman's name was. I'm so sorry. I can't remember her name. Let her know that I told you to call. And so I was whoa, that's pretty awesome. So I basically texted this woman and let her know, I was I'm in New Zealand. I'm going to be in Queenstown in 6 weeks. I hear you might have some work. And she was yep, let's meet when you get here. And then I basically do a travel for 6 weeks through the country. And then I end up in Queenstown and I meet up with her and she was yep, we have loads of weddings every weekend, all of wedding season. What's your experience in installations? And I'm just zero, no wedding experience, none. I worked at a bouquet making factory. I made the same bouquet all day long, every day. At that point, no experience. And she was okay. And then she's well, we'll get you to start over the weekend. And then I got some awesome experience working in Queenstown at this point. I was up a ladder doing installations on day one. And she was I really love people who are very direct and very like firm. Or maybe not like firm, but I like people who are really direct and are really good at teaching and tell me why to do things a certain way or how to and also why they need to be done that way so that I can learn. I really enjoy learning. And so I was doing massive installations every single weekend, going from 0 to 100, working for this little wedding company. And it was really great. So yeah, did some weddings in New Zealand, which was pretty cool. But also after that, I was like, I am never having a big wedding and I never want to do weddings again. But it was a really good experience. I learned a lot.
So in hindsight, how important do you think those skills that you acquired back then are with what you do now?
Oh, everything. I think like something I inherently have in my character is like, in my ability is I have a lot of stamina and I can really push through big projects. But I think the skills I gained learning how to do big installations, I mean, it was all just fundamental mechanics of floristry that have fed into every floral job that I've done and every like personal project I've done, every hand done. Every time I build something with my hands, I just learned a lot about, building things and making things with my hands. It was everything, that job. And it was because I had to learn quickly and I had to adapt or die basically. And she just needed the help. And so she was really willing to like teach me what needed. Like I think I'm a really good learner. And I'm a great student. And so when she was showing me how to do things and I really wanted to get good, she would give me the time of day. But she also had to move quick. So yeah, she put some fire under my feet for sure.
I love that. So you've said before that it was a perfect environment to learn more about yourself. Why do you think that was?
Living in New Zealand and Australia, especially like I'll say, I really found myself living in Australia. So my partner and I met in New Zealand and we ended up moving to Melbourne in Australia. And when I was there, I kind of had this moment where I was like, I'm doing a lot of work. I'm doing floral work, but I started to get old. I was like, I really want to be an artist. What is my thing? What can I do to make like commercial work? What can I do that's me? I want to have a creative practice. And I was like 27 at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be turning 28 soon. I'm either going to do something now or it's never going to happen. Like, do it now, just try. And so I really, through the process of making things and having time away, like the US is really competitive. And I don't know, I think everywhere is really competitive, but I feel like Americans are also just like, there's so many people who are so good at stuff and you're just inundated with messaging on social media and your day-to-day of so-and-so is doing so well. And I just felt like being there I just knew that I needed to get away from that. And I needed to pull myself and put myself super far from home and see who I am when I'm not in the place where I'm from, and who am I when I'm not feeling the pressure from people I know or family, when I'm just kind of discovering like who am I? Which sounds so cheesy and silly, but like it was like, who am I? What do I like to do? And I can't figure that out if people I know are watching me. And so going to Australia was the perfect place. It's super far removed from everyone. And Aussies are like I stayed in Melbourne the entire time I was living there and lived in Melbourne the whole time. So I just found people in Melbourne to be really open and really friendly and also really, really chill. Like Americans, we are wound real tight. You know what I mean? Like we are like on top of it. We're always like, pew, 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 getting things done. You know what I mean? But like Aussies are like, let's just lean back, have a beer, talk about something funny, like relax a bit. And we found like we landed in with this really good, like great group of people that we just still today talk to and love, who, yeah, we just found a sense of community that I hadn't had in a while. And because the pace of the city is so much slower than San Francisco or New York or like just the US, like, but also there was so much going on there that I felt really inspired and like excited about my day to day. And I just think that the relaxed pace really helped what I needed at that point in my life. I was just really, I was really beating myself up about where I wasn't. Like, I think everybody does at that age. And I think we probably do our whole lives, really. Like, I was just beating myself up about where I wasn't and where I was supposed to be the entire time I was in New Zealand. And then when I got to Australia, it was just, there was something that just changed where it was like, it's okay if I'm not there yet, but let's start taking steps to going to where I want to be. And I was finally built up the confidence to be like, let's take those steps. Let's start to do something.
So where did you think you should have been by that time?
Oh my God. Who doesn't think they should have like the most well-paid job and like have a house and all this crazy shit when you're in your mid-20s with like no life experience and barely any portfolio work, when you don't even really know what you like making yet, like when you look at other people when you're in your mid-20s, I feel like you think that you're never going to figure it out. And you've got your whole, like, it sounds so cheesy. I'm so sorry to anybody in their 20s. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You're going to be fine. You just don't feel like that in the moment, though. You feel like by the time you've graduated, if you don't have a job straight away, like that, you don't have your shit together, and like things just take time and you're so impatient. So I felt like I was supposed to have already figured out what I wanted to do as a creative. I was already supposed to be like having a great job, and I just didn't. And I was like, and that's okay, like I needed to go have some life experience before I knew what I wanted to do creatively. But I thought I should have done it the other way around.
That's so interesting. And I'm sure it's something a lot of people can relate to. So in Melbourne, you had this now or never moment and started another challenge, creating something new every day for 100 days. What was driving you at that point?
Yeah, what was driving me at that point was like, okay, I'm about to pass my mid-20s. Like, it's time to start getting serious. I think a lot of people do this. I think a lot of people I think it's more normal, maybe not normal is the right word. I think it's more common than people are led to believe that you start to get more direction in your late 20s than your early 20s. It's just that we always hear about people who figure it out a lot faster when they're younger. So for me, I was 27, turning 28 soonish. Maybe I was halfway through my 27th year, and I was just like, I really want to be an artist. So what does that take? I just started getting really practical about it. And I was like, well, it takes one thing. Having an artistic practice takes practice. So I should probably be practicing something. I was like, what do I want to do? How can I make money? I don't want to work in the floral industry forever. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a graphic designer, because I thought that the only way to make money was by being a graphic designer, and that they were the only creatives who made any money or something. I don't know why. I just needed to do something. And then it turns out I'm terrible at graphic design. I'm so bad at graphic design. I really appreciate good design, and I think I can spot it really well, but I cannot make it. But I love when people design things really well. I tried, though, for 80 days to be a graphic designer. So I started this challenge being like, I'm just going to give it 100 days every day, no matter what. I was working this job. I was like, I'm going to do it either before work, after work, whatever it takes. I'm going to do it. so I started making something every day, and I was doing just like a poster a day because that was really common. Poster designers, and I think it's still a common thing people do, would just do like the 365 challenge, make a poster every single day. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. Lots of people do that. That's cool. I'm going to do that. And so I started off making collages, and then I started trying to design stuff. And like, by day 80, I was just like, okay, this wasn't nearly as like enjoyable. I'm not enjoying this anymore. I don't think I want to do graphic design. So what the fuck am I going to do? And so I just started searching on YouTube because I shot a lot of photography in college, and I just kind of lost touch with it. So then I was on YouTube and I was like, maybe I'll just like watch some photography stuff. And then I started watching some lighting tutorials, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And I was like, maybe I could try some lighting. And I was like, I can't afford any of that equipment though. I was like, maybe I can do some like still life. So I was looking at some some of the Dutch masters still life paintings of like flowers, and just like some of the Renaissance, like, very moody still lifes with the skull and the smoke and all the stuff. And I was like, ooh, I really like these. These are fun. So the next day, I decided to set up a still life and just take some photos. And so I switched from doing posters to shooting photos after that. And then I don't think I even finished the challenge. Like, I just kind of got hooked on this idea of like, okay, maybe I'll start learning lighting. And so then I went and I bought like just those little, you can get them everywhere, these little light bulbs that are LED, that are smart. They connect to your Wi-Fi. So you can connect them to your phone. And I just got so obsessed with long exposure photography, and so obsessed with like still life photography, and really into lighting and color and all that stuff. So that 100-day challenge, I don't think I finished it, but it set me, just having to show up and do something every day just made me try stuff out and confront what was working and what wasn't working. And honestly, ever since that, I have not stopped. And that was in 2017. I've not stopped creating weekly ever since I started that project. Anytime I meet a person who's really frustrated creatively, I try to encourage them to try that in the smallest way possible, because I really believe trying to do something for 100 days, it really helps.
Yeah, it's such a good idea. And it sounds like those challenges played a massive role in helping you find your artistic voice. Why do you think they had such a big impact?
I think that they had a really big impact because what it does is, it's like, for me, it felt like I was standing in a mirror. I was confronting myself, and I was like looking at my ability, and I was looking at what I liked and what I was drawn to. It was like a conversation I was having with myself, and like a form of honesty about what I was finding enjoyable and what I wasn't finding enjoyable. And I think that really just helped me go down the paths that I needed to, and acknowledge the areas that were not for me or that I did not like. So I really like those challenges a lot.
Yeah, and I love how your story shows that creativity isn't just about inspiration. It's about trusting the process and just showing up every day, day after day.
Totally. And it's just like it really is like working out. I feel like it's good for you. And working out doesn't feel good all the time. Sometimes it does. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like, yes, I feel so strong today. That was a really good workout. But not in the moment after, typically. Or sometimes during. Sometimes I get the runner's high when I'm on a run. But when you're doing creative stuff, like sometimes it just feels like voluntary, like, I'm just going to show up today and torture my brain. Like, I'm just going to try to make this thing work, and just be like, oh, it's not working. I think that's where the torture like artist comes from, is it's like, you're trying to make this thing you see that's going to be so awesome if you could just do it. But you have to keep like showing up every day to like try to make that thing come to fruition. But then like, sometimes I think the thing that also makes it really addictive is it's like a happy accident, or you kind of like, you didn't intend for something to happen. You almost feel like you can't take credit for it, even though you did it. But it's like something that you just kind of put it together in the moment. Maybe it's like you just moved a thing And that's all it took. And you're just like, poof, that was crazy. Like, it's just that the creative process and those happy accidents is what make it really addictive for me, and those surprises. And it's really like, it's not always fun. It is like working out, where it's like you have to show up every day to get better at it. But as you do, you start to unlock these next like levels of yourself. That's really, really cool. And I love it so much. It's so cool. I want everybody who's a creative person to have that.
I love that you mentioned those happy accidents, because I do think that you have to have a lot of time to play and fail to have those happy accidents. And if you're working on a client project and you don't have much time, you don't really have this luxury of being able to fail and try new things.
Totally, totally. And also, like, if you do enough of that practice when it's not a paying job, like for me with client projects, like I feel like I've done enough workouts now to where that's like the show. It's like your practice is your like literally your rehearsal. So when you get a moment with a client project, you're warmed up, you're ready to go, you know your process. And that's kind of the position I feel where I don't necessarily take risks. Like maybe if I was working with a team and like I would feel differently. But when people come to me for a specific thing, it's like I do the risk and the playful bit outside of those client projects. Because also if I risk and play around and come up with something new and I share that on social media and they see that, that's like great, because they'll hire me for that. Yeah. But there definitely needs to be an element of play and discovery with all of it. But the creative process is fun and also horrible at the same time. And that's what makes it so good.
Totally. I mean, 100%.
It's like, I don't know anybody else. Like, do like accountants sit there and be like, I'm just going to emotionally like torture myself while I crunch these numbers and then feel really good about it later. Like, I just don't know if any other profession, this is part of it. Like, it's very funny.
That's so true, though. And then after that came another huge turning point and you moved to London. Would you like to talk more about what happened?
Yeah. So this is where I might start crying again, everybody. So basically, we were living in Melbourne and everything was going great. And I was really finding my groove. Like I'd really hit my stride. Like I was finding myself creatively. It was just after COVID and things were starting to look up after a really difficult time. But I had really made the most of my situation there. And then I had a trip booked to go home to see my family. And then I got a call one day before my trip that my mom had died.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. It's really, yeah. But yeah, I got a call one day that my mom had died. And it was like, for anybody who has ever moved from your home country to a new country, it is literally your biggest fear that you know is something could happen to someone in your family. You know that's a real probability, but you still sign up to move overseas anyway. Yeah, it was like that reality came true for me. And it was like all of a sudden, literally she died and the borders had opened up like maybe a couple weeks before. Like Australia, for anybody who doesn't remember, like during COVID, it was completely, no one could get in or out. I think the hardest thing about that period was being so far away. And the thing I remember most was like getting back to Colorado, going upstairs at the house, and seeing just an application for a passport. My mom was going to come visit me in Australia. And it was just like so sad that didn't happen. And so basically after that trip, I called my partner, Anthony, when I was in the States and was just like, we can't live in Australia anymore. We have to move to the UK. We always discussed like moving to the UK. We always knew it was going to happen. We just decided to expedite the process because it was like Australia's too far. The flights to get out there were so expensive. The trip is so long. Like for anybody who hasn't sat on a 15-hour flight. The 15-hour flight is brutal. And that's not even the only flight. That's just the longest one, you know? So we just decided like, it's time. Australia is too far. Let's just get out of there. And within that year, I think it was like maybe 9 months, maybe a year. It's all a blur, to be honest with you. I can't quite remember. We decided to move to London, but there was a long period before that. I mean, we were in Australia. As soon as I got back, I was made redundant at my job. So I went from losing my mom to losing my job. And my partner is so wonderful. He really got me through that period. I ended up finding another job. Thank God. It was really, really hard, but I got one, and very lucky how I ended up getting that. And then we ended up moving. And so now we're in the UK. And you know what? Like at first I was not ready for the move. I had to sell I had worked so hard to acquire some lighting gear, some video lighting gear. I was like, I can't justify taking this with me. I have to get rid of it. I'm not going to have a studio. What am I going to do without an art studio? Like I'm starting over, and we didn't want to leave our friends, but it was just like, the time has come. We've got to go. So we ended up moving to the UK, and I'll tell you what, things really started happening in my career when we moved here, and it has been really great. It's been really great.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, but I'm again so sorry for your loss, and you've experienced so much loss. How have those moments influenced your work?
I don't know. It's not like I have like themes of grief and death and loss. Like I don't have like, my art literally doesn't have any deeper meaning. Like I'm really not that. Like when it comes to my artistic side, I'm just like, woo, this is fun. Let's get a laser. Like, ooh, let's put the, you know what I mean? Like, let's play with projected light and flowers and like make things look like real, woo, psychedelic, sweet, you know, like not really anything deep about what I'm doing. It's purely aesthetic and fun to make. But I'd say the way it has influenced my work is that I just like make shit now. You know what I mean? Like they don't get to do anything. It actually just like really breaks my heart that these people were robbed of their lives too early. And so I feel this huge obligation to just, it sounds so cheesy, just do the things I want to do and to have as much fun as possible.
Yeah.
And to take pieces of these people with me, and like people kind of live on through you in some ways.
Absolutely. Wasn't your mom a gardener? Do you think she had something to do with your love of floristry?
Oh, probably. I mean, my mother was one of those people who she was just like, okay, I'll talk a little bit about my mom because she's a funny lady. She was a real ass kicker, though. I'll tell you what. I lived like in a high accountability household. Like if things weren't done, it was because you didn't do them, Stormy, did you? You know what I mean? Like there were no excuses. It was like she was a real drill sergeant in a lot of ways, which has its pros and its cons. You know what I mean? But like as an adult, I remember I have a very distinct memory of my mom making me mad or something. I have a few very distinct memories. My mom telling me off when I was a kid. And like I laugh about them because they were actually, you know, I don't blame her, but I remember being like, I hate you, you're so mean, or something terrible. And then her saying to me, she's like, you'll hate me as a kid and you'll love me as an adult. And you know what? She was right. She was so right. My brother-in-law, Kevin, my sister's husband, he says about my family, he's like, with the Pyeattes, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Like if we're going to do something, we're going to do it the best. Like, we're just going to go really hard. And we get that from our mother. So when my mother, she was also an incredible gardener, but growing things in Colorado at high altitude in the desert, like high desert, in the rocky earth, really hard to grow stuff out there. She had this incredible flower garden that she just I made this joke at my mother's funeral about like how like Mother Nature just kind of was just like, I like this woman. She's just telling me what she wants and I'm going to do it. Like she really just made this most beautiful garden. So yeah, I spent a lot of time around flowers growing up. So I do think that fed into my interest in floristry, but also like, she made me weed that garden a lot for her and put me to work a lot. So when I think about it, I'm also just like, I think about all of the torturous hours that I had to work in her garden. That was not necessarily fun either.
Oh, wow.
It's just hard. It just never goes away.
I know.
And that's like, like I just think that's why I think with people in their 20s, like I'm so happy I just went bananas and did all these things, because like as you get older, people in your life start to pass and you have to like be there for people. So I feel like for anyone I meet who's super young, I'm just like, yeah, go do those things while you can, because there's a certain point in life where you can't necessarily get away with that anymore, or you don't want to, like you have to be there for other people in your life.
Yeah.
So you don't want to miss those moments. Yeah. But your mom passed as well.
Yeah. I've also lost my mum when I was fairly young. And for me, that became this sort of dividing line. There's life before and then there's life after. And I fully agree with you that the grief never fully goes away, but maybe it becomes a bit softer with time, but it never really disappears. But in a bizarre way, I do feel like I became more myself after it.
Yeah.
Did it feel that way for you too?
Yeah. I like what you said about there's you before and there's you after. 100%. I feel like I'm also I'm not always perfect, you know what I mean? But I would say I'm far more patient with people than I used to be. I'm far more patient with strangers than I used to be. I'm like I think I'm a better person. Sometimes like we get so impatient with you just don't know what's going on in someone else's life. Like
so true.
You really don't. Like, yeah, I definitely feel like it's made me a better person, but I'd give years off my life to bring any of them back,
Of course. I know. I can totally relate to that. I think you're right that maybe losses do teach you something about the shortness of life, and they really shake you to your core and sort of push you to reevaluate everything.
100%. 100%. Like, it's a blessing in that way, though. It really shows you what matters and what doesn't matter. Like,
absolutely.
I know what matters and what doesn't matter anymore. And I also feel like I used to be so much more selfish. I think we all do need to be a little selfish in some ways, but I feel like I was too focused on my needs and my wants and my feelings of being like, why am I not where I should be in my career, even though I haven't done anything? You know what I mean? Like just being, it made me, it really showed me also like relationships are everything. Who's in your life really is everything. Like I want to be the person now who drops everything to help a friend. Of course, you absolutely have to still do things and hold space for yourself and the things you want to do. You can't just go and do everything for everyone all the time. But I've really learned that I want to take a step back from just being so self-focused and put other people a priority as well, making people a priority that are important to me. That's something I've learned that I'm really trying to implement more.
Yeah, and witnessing someone dear to you pass away just changes so much about how you approach life and what you value. Or would you say that's been true for you?
Yeah, 100%. Everything is just evaluated, but also the YOLO thing still hasn't gone. I still am just I don't want to be like, what if I did that? What if like it's made me braver as well? Like it's made me more willing to take risks, like jump out and yeah. It's good. It's changed everything.
Yeah, 100%. So looking back at everything, losing a friend, traveling across the country, moving overseas, losing your mom, building a creative life from scratch, what do you think have been the key decisions that shaped who you are today?
Ooh, I feel like I've made a lot of decisions. I'd say that those key decisions in my life, all those big ones from travel to picking up floristry to creativity, have always been like what has been the most fun and what's also a little bit scary, but I kind of want to do. What seems a bit challenging and a bit out of my comfort zone, but also would be kind of cool. I think that's the kind of theme with all of my decisions. I like big, scary things. I like big, scary challenges. I like getting out of my comfort zone and being like, who is Stormy when she's in this crazy situation, you know? I also think it's just like all those decisions are trusting that it's going to be okay. And like, they come from like a really like, when I think about those pivotal points in my life, like the really, really like naive self. Like I was so naive, like even thinking that I would be able to pull any of this off. And that's like just not acknowledging the things that could stand in your way to keep you from really trying things out, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but also I've always thought that there's something beautiful about being really naive. Sometimes it can protect you in a way, maybe because people sense that you trust them.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm saying this because I also traveled through Central America on my own in my early 20s. And I also had the same feeling of being kind of invincible. Yeah. But looking back now, though, there were so many sketchy moments and I was so naive and I'm like, what was going through your head? But in hindsight, maybe being so naive somehow protected me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think also like what I love about being a little bit naive is it's like you don't have enough experience to be like paranoid and like afraid of the world. Like I still try to hold on to a bit of like being a little bit naive, I think is good. And I try to hold on to like, I think about my younger self where it'd be like, what would the brave, really kind of stupid version of myself when I was younger, what would she do? She'd probably do this, but I'm going to do it just a little bit smarter. You know what I mean? But just, yeah, I think also when you're so naive and you're like, just trust that it's all going to work out. I think you're right. I think people do just sense that you mean them no harm. And so people don't mean harm to you. And then you also just attract, I feel like goodness when that happens. Like just, I don't know, maybe I didn't realize it because everybody was like, this girl's an idiot. We've got to protect her. And I just didn't even notice it. Like that could totally have happened. And I'm just like, woo. Like, yeah, life is great. Like I'm having so much fun. And it's just like all these threats around me and I'm not even noticing it. But yeah, I think that there's something, and I think that it allows you to be a little bit more brave. You haven't been like bogged down by life yet to have any kind of doubt or pessimism. And I think that that's like what's awesome about being a little bit naive and stuff. Like I am, you know, sometimes I get a little pessimistic, but I am like an optimist. I really am an optimist, and I can't just sit and think about all of the bad things that I can be pragmatic. Like when I was saying before about what are all of the risks? What are the worst case scenarios? Like I have to think about that so that I know what my plan B is or my escape plan is if things go wrong. But like, I'm also so optimistic that things are going to be fine. I think that naturally allows you to see like the goodness that is surrounding you.
And I'm curious, what's the worst decision you've ever made?
Oh my God. What is the worst decision I've ever made? Well, I'm still here, so I haven't made any decisions that are that bad. So I guess like the worst decision I ever made could have probably been like, I chose some pretty lame like boyfriends in the past. Like those could be pretty bad. I also like had one too many nights in my early 20s where I probably drank just a little too much and like, just said some stupid things. The worst decision I ever made. I'm still alive. We're good.
So when you think about the future though, what does success mean to you these days? And what do you think makes life meaningful for you?
Oh, okay. Success. I still don't know. I know I'm a very like ambitious person and I'm a very achieving person. I'm going through a bit of a creative transition period at the moment where I'm like exploring touch designer and new ways of working, different software and stuff like that. I don't really have a plan on where I want to be, what I would find success to be at today and how I feel in this moment is knowing that I have plenty of work lined up and that people enjoy working with me because I'm like fun to work with. What makes life meaningful for me is just like constant improvement and exploration and learning stuff. I love like seeing myself improve. I also seeing like other people improve. And I think something I get a lot of meaning from, and this is like, sorry, I'm getting teary again. Like if people were to take a drink every time I started crying in this episode, I feel like people would just be so smashed. So don't do that. But I'm going to talk about my mom again, everybody. So gear up. I might just start crying. I really love like seeing other friends of mine who are going through like a tough time creatively. Like I get a lot of meaning from just being a bit of an ass kicker like my mom, where if I have a friend who's having a hard time creatively, I'm just like, you know what? Do you want some advice? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, I won't give you any. But if they're like, you want some advice? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, you got to be ready for my advice. Like, because I want to give it to you, but like, I'm your friend. Like, I'm your friend. I'm not just like anybody else. I'm not going to just like appease you, but I really want to help you. And it's like, so if you want my advice, I'm going to give it to you. And if they say yes, I'm like, all right. You only live once. You're going to die one day. It's either now or never. Like, I just really like just giving people space to be like, come on, just like do something. Like that gives me a lot of meaning. It's like, make something if you really want to make it. Just a lot of encouragement. I get a lot of meaning in my life out of encouraging other people.
But wasn't it Steve Jobs who also reminded himself every morning that you're going to die?
Yeah, I know. And it's just, I think I've seen that same thing. Oh, it was the Stanford address.
Yes,
yes, you're right. I think it was his Stanford address because when he said that, I was just like, yep. Because that was after Xena had already passed at that point. So I was just like, that resonates. I feel that for sure. It seems so like, I tell people, I warn them, I'm just like, I think a lot about mortality. So if you want this advice, I'll give it to you. But it can be like, I don't want to send you into an existential crisis. But so if you want this is the angle it's going to take. And yeah, I like to remind people of that. It seems to work sometimes. I don't think it would work for everybody, but I want everyone to make the most of it because you don't know. You don't know when it's your time to go. So like, make the most of today. It sounds so cheesy.
No, it doesn't sound cheesy at all because I think that it is such an important reminder. And it's so hard for us to think about death or our own mortality, but actually it's something we should think about because it can motivate us a lot because knowing that we're going to die is a massive motivator in life.
Yeah. And you don't want to be like paranoid. Like you don't want to be paranoid of it and you don't want it to motivate you in negative ways where it's like you're hyper obsessive about your health or something, you know. Like I also think there's certain negative things that come with it. But I think it's also really like good, like we were talking about before, of what's important, what's not important. Like weighing up those things. What do I really want? What am I just doing because I think other people want that? Like make
exactly
the bloody video. Who cares about those people who are going to say some stupid shit about you online? Fuck them. Like, you only live once, YOLO. Sorry, everybody's going to hate me, but I've never actually said YOLO this much until this chat. But you seriously, like, fuck those people. It's a good way to be like, what's important, what's not important? What do I want to do? What do I not want to do? Why am I afraid of putting this thing out there? Is that for a good reason? No. If I was dead in a year, would I regret not doing that? Yeah. Then do it. Like, make a decision tree. Have you heard of decision trees? They're like those flow charts of like, is this a good decision or not? I don't know. I think like, just to keep people from holding themselves back or not taking action. I think it is a good motivator in that way.
100%. And on that note, what's the one thing you'd love listeners to take away from our conversation today?
Oh my God. You better do something fun. No, I think if there was one takeaway listeners should take away from our conversation today, is it's like, really don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. Go do some things that are a little bit scary so that you get to see what you're made of. And because if you do that, if you get to see what you're made of, when inevitably, like, life has ups and downs, when you hit those downs, you're going to have a reference point to what you can handle and what you're capable of. And I think that's more valuable than anything else. Like, get outside your comfort zone, take some risks, learn about yourself, take a few punches from the world, and like, keep going.
Yeah, totally. And finally, where can people find you and follow your work?
You can find me on Instagram at Stormy Pyeatte, StormyPyeatte. And then I'm also planning on starting a YouTube in 2026. So I'm saying that now because it's accountability. So you could also find me on YouTube, and you can be part of my under 500 subscribers that I currently have. I'm really excited. I'm going to make some videos about the projects I'm working on and just some other stuff. I'll figure it out as I go. I'm just going to make some stuff. Yeah. So you can find me mostly on Instagram, though. That's where you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stormy. It was so lovely talking to you today.